Alright, this is try number like 5 on making this video because I keep making it way too long. This is the first time I'm actually getting a video out on the week that I actually did the work that I'm making the video for, so I'm pretty happy about that. I haven't done that in a while. I'm usually like 4 or 5 days late on making the video. Anyway, I've got a couple things to show. I've got some animation stuff, as you can see going on right here. I've got some objects in that I'll go over with them, and some health and resource display stuff, and then enemy and melee kind of stuff. So first I'll start with the animations. I've got this idle animation going. Similar to what I had before, I did change to a different system of how I'm doing the animations. So a lot of the work this week went into that. But it is all functioning. It's animating based on the direction you're facing currently. So as you move, whenever you move a direction, it changes which direction you are moving in. So I move to the left, and it knows I'm facing left now. And then whenever I change a different direction than I was facing, it changes direction. So currently I only have an idle animation for while you're facing downwards, but I also did make a moving animation while you're going down. And then, like, this is just kind of showing how it looks when you're moving. Obviously, it looks absolutely terrible. There's some stuff I'm going to have to change. Very specifically, I need to get the legs fixed. I'm going to have to change quite a few things with this sprite. One of the biggest problems is that there's this huge contrast between, like, this character sprite and the tree. Very obviously different. And that's both good and bad. I like how it's popping because it's really obvious where I am all the time. But I don't really like how it looks in general, so I'm gonna have to change that. But the important thing to take away is that even though this looks absolutely atrocious, it is doing what I want it to do. So it's changing the frames properly, cycling through them, and doing what it needs to do, as long as I'm holding the key down. Second I let go, it changes to the idle animation. I have the logic set up to do the other directions, I just haven't made the sprite sheets for them, so they don't do anything right now. So yeah, animations are in and cool. I'm really happy about that. A quick explanation of the melee system before I show it. Melees are going to work based off of, and I apologize for all these bright colors, this is ridiculous. So each weapon, as you can see here, has damage, recovery, and swing. I think I went into this before, but it will make a little bit more sense with this visual in a second. So the recovery is going to be how long your melee cooldown is. So I make a melee, and I should rephrase that. So the recovery is your melee cooldown. The swing is how long it takes for the animation to play. So you melee the first time. You're not on cooldown, so you melee, and then you have this 90 value worth of animation time. So it goes through the animation based off of the swing time. I don't have any animations playing at the moment or working, and I haven't made any of the animation spreadsheets, but the way it'll work is it'll just go based off of, say, this thing has 90 swing speed. It's going to do increments of, I don't know, 4 or 5, how many frames it's going to be for the actual weapon swing, and it'll go through the animations at a rate dependent on the swing. So every weapon's going to have the same amount of frames when it's swinging, but it'll go through them faster depending on the weapon speed, swing speed. So I said this before, but these numbers are completely arbitrary. It's going to be a lot of math and figuring out what looks exactly right. Eventually, the really, really fast weapons like Sanctity here has a 35. Others have even faster, I think. But they're just going to play super fast. You almost won't even see anything happening. But that's how the animation will work for the weapons. After 3/4 of the swing animation has completed, and this is another arbitrary number again, but it's what I'm using for the logic. After 3/4 of the swing has been, like the swing animation is completed. This is kind of confusing, but once that 3/4 has completed, then it makes a trigger box for the collision detection. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to have every weapon kind of going to the same spot. The collision detection is always going to be in the exact same spot no matter what weapon you're using. The animation is going to just be different. So they'll always hit in the same spot, but it'll look different depending on when you're attacking with what weapon. So it does that collision box for 1 frame. It's only 1 frame right now. I'm probably going to have to change that a little bit. We'll see how I need to make that work, because sometimes right now it's not quite, and you'll see it when I do the melee, it's not quite catching, so the enemy's update trying to sync up with when the collision frame is sometimes isn't syncing. So sometimes you meleeed, but it doesn't connect. So there's a problem there I'm going to have to work on, but it'll do that 1 frame of collision detection. The actual melee animation finishes, so you have that 1/4 left of the animation. After that animation has completed, then you have a recovery time. So this will have a separate animation of just kind of bringing your weapon back to where you start. Once that's done, then you can attack again. So the way that is working doesn't look like anything fancy at the moment, but when you attack, it makes this little visual cue that you have attacked, and that box is appearing 3/4 of the swing time after you have hit the melee button. So there's going to be this, I hit the button, the animation plays, and then it pops up. Right when it pops up, there's a collision detection, and it stays for a little bit, which would be the animation finishing, and then it goes away. And if I spam, I can't do anything until the recovery is done, and then it'll actually go again. And then I've just kind of placed that in, so it's going wherever you're looking, basically, or whichever direction you happen to be facing. The way I'm going to work that out is you can't move while you're actually meleeing, so you'll attack, and then you'll be stuck in this animation. You can't move, and then you'll be able to move after the animation's done. Some weapons are going to have special movement abilities, and the way I'm going to be able to do that, I think, is have it so that when you actually melee, it just plays this animation in one direction, in the direction you were facing, and then just stops the direction change kind of logic. So while you're meleeing, you can't move into a different direction animation. Anyway, that's long-winded, super probably boring, but all of that's at least functional. I have the idea and the logic in for that. There's some problems, but it's doing what I needed to do at this point, which seems to be a theme. Anyway, next I've got the health. There's no way for enemies to hurt you right now. I have to finish the logic for this enemy next week. But the way it's working is just going based off of a percentage. So as your health increases or decreases, if it reaches a certain percentage level, then it will change the display. And I've got that for, they're both doing exactly the same thing, the right and the left here. So the functionality for those is in, and anytime you're taking damage, it's just going to automatically update. With enemies, so this lovely little purple sprite here is an enemy. When you hit enemies with a melee, it'll make this little damage number pop up. So the way that's going to work is kind of like old school games where a damage number pops up and it's going to kind of bounce off to the side. It's going to go a random direction and random kind of orientation. So it stays for a little bit, bounces, and then goes away. And then obviously it does that until the enemy dies. Once the enemy dies, it finishes the last number, starts the enemy's death animation, then it destroys everything. Oh, there was one of those misses. Come on. Okay, well, that's clearly not working. I'm not great at math, but I'm pretty sure I hit more than 100 health, and that's what that thing's supposed to have. Anyway, not important. It wouldn't do anything, it would just get rid of the square anyway. But it's going to work so that once it gets out of health, this last number is going to pop up over here, do its little bouncing, and then the animation, or the enemy will be in place playing its death animation and remove the collider so you can move through it and not have any problems with it. Another thing that's going to work for combat is hitting it. Touching an enemy is going to do damage, so they'll have attacks, and they will also just deal damage if you touch them. Last but not least, I've got, and I'll move this screen over here so you can actually see them all. Let me grab the thing here, sorry. What? Where? Sorry for the delay here, hold on. Okay, here we go. Alright, so, you can see these, it might be a little bit hard to see on this background, but, so there's some collision boxes, and these are attached to this tree right here. So there's two trees, they each have their collision box things here. So there's this top collision box that stops you from going down, and then going up if you go into it. The idea I wanted to have is, and this is going to be something for all of the terrain objects, they're going to have this kind of system. This bigger box down here, if you hit this gets rid of these two side collision boxes. And I did that because I wanted it so that you can move in front of the tree, kind of. So when your character is moving through, whoopsie doodles, while your character is moving through, I can, God, I'm so sorry, this is ridiculous. Grab the thing again. I'm going to show this when I actually walk into it. Okay. Doing great, Blake. Okay, so when I walk over here and actually hit the collision box, it gets rid of these two collision side boxes. So when I'm walking into this tree here, they're too close to actually show. I need to go on this side. So when I walk into this collision box here, it won't let me go past the tree. But if I happen to go in front of the tree, I wanted it to be that you're actually in front of the tree, and that's fine to walk through. And then the idea is that you can go into this tree, and you'll be like in front of the tree. That's fine. And then if you go in front of the tree, you also have to be able to walk past it. So it was a lot of struggling, and it's still not quite working exactly how I want it to. But I wanted it to be that you can't really walk into the tree this way, because it'd be kind of like walking through the tree trunk. So it's gonna be some trial and error in figuring out exactly where the positioning needs to be for them, but the general idea is there. It's supposed to just stop you so you can't go through the trunk to the sides, but if you come up from the bottom, it would stop you from going through the tree, but you're still in front of it. Then another piece, I just have this kind of broken up so that if you go behind the tree, you're behind the tree. Yay! So both of the trees work exactly like that. The general idea, and I think I have a couple of things that I can work on to try and make that work more effectively. But I kind of want that idea of you can go through specific ways to like go into this tree from the bottom, and it doesn't make you hit these colliders that are below it. And that's kind of the best way to explain it, actually. So I have these colliders here. The character's box is like right around his chest, more or less. So if I were to come up through the tree right here, without this trigger box removing them, I'd be hitting this thing, and it would look like I can't go forward, so my head would like, can't get the move screw right here. So I would end up like this, and I wouldn't be able to go up into this second to the right tree here. And that's not where the position should be, that I can't go through this tree. So I have these boxes here trying to get rid of these side collisions so that I can actually walk up to the spot that I would actually be in the tree. And then another piece of it is, it's getting rid of it from the bottom, but it's also making it so you don't get stuck in the tree. So if it wasn't removing them, I'd just get stuck in here. I wouldn't be able to do anything. So, extremely long-winded video. I did do kind of a lot of stuff this week. None of it's really crazy impressive, but it's a lot of systems work. Next week I'm going to be working on this enemy and having its AI working. I think I have not the animation. I have all of the logic in place. I have to do a little bit of work. Just I have it pseudocoded out, so I have to um, basically fill in the blanks on that. But it's all more or less there. A big part of next week is going to be, at the very least, starting the animations for it. Because it's going to be pretty big to have the animations working for this enemy, to have them actually doing anything. Otherwise, it's going to just look a little odd. So I'm going to work on that. Another thing I really want to do, I like the having the damage display is really nice, and I want that to stay there, but I think it's also really important to have the enemy's health displayed somewhere. So I'm thinking probably having something the way that works like this, be just displayed underneath the enemy, and probably just right after they take damage, or for a short period of time after they take damage, it'll show their health bar, and then it'll go away if they don't take damage for a couple seconds. Just so it's not cluttering up the screen, but you also get an idea of where the health is. I think that's pretty important. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that, see how that works, see how it looks, and then work on the sprite sheet for the enemy, and then get that logic in, and hopefully I will have at least a somewhat working enemy next week that I can try and do combat with. But yeah, sorry this was such a long video. It'll hopefully be less lengthy as time goes on, because I got a lot of stuff in on this one. Alright, I'll have a video next week.